done and we can get down to it. Welcome to Home Biz Tax Talk. My name is Lysandra Everett. I am the Home Biz Tax Lady, where I help home business owners win the tax game. Home Biz Tax Talk airs Monday through Friday, 9 o'clock-ish. And when you tune into my show, you're going to hear about topics that are important to the home business community. And today, okay, so let me be real. It's not necessarily important to the home business community, but y'all, this is some tea, okay, for real. So hold on, because I had to get my own tea. Okay, so yesterday, the U.S. tax court told Wesley Snipes, baby, you need to pay the IRS, whether you like it or not. So let me give you what's going down. All right, so as many of you know, a few years ago, Wesley Snipes wound up going to jail. Okay, it was a huge, ridiculous mess. So the background is this: he didn't file for quite a few years because he had CPAs that were tax protesters. Now, the way that you tell, somebody's a tax protester, and I usually get this, usually about every 6 months or so, somebody will come on one of my posts and saying, show me the law that says that taxation is legal, whatever, okay? I ain't even trying to have that. So what happened is he wound up going to jail for 3 years for failure to file. He wasn't convicted of the conspiracy charges or anything like that, which would have been way worse. But he did wind up going to jail for 3 years. So he was so back in 2006, Wesley Snipes was indicted on charges of attempting to claim nearly $12 million in fraudulent tax refunds and for not filing any of the tax returns. Now, wait, so I don't know who his attorneys were, but I personally would like to just smack them right in the face, okay? Because this was a mess. So what they did is they said that the defense felt like they were confident because the government had not proved their case. Now, and then what they said was, and here's the quote: "We could have put on a big show, but we don't do that. We're not going to waste the jury's time." Listen to me. The IRS, what I tell you, it is your job to prove yourself innocent, not be walking all up in there like, you haven't proven anything, so, I'm done. No. You have to prove yourself innocent. And so the prosecution showed how Wesley Snipes avoided paying taxes. And it states that he earned almost $40 million in income from 1999 to 2004 and failed to file tax returns or pay any taxes on that income. Now, again, so these tax protesting CPAs that he had essentially had him convinced. He said he didn't know, so whatever, we weren't there, right? So they had him convinced that based on some obscure law that he did not owe any taxes on that money. So he didn't file any income taxes. He didn't pay no taxes, okay? And oh, by the way, them CPAs went to jail too. Now, and I think they're still in. So he was acquitted on felony federal tax fraud and conspiracy charges. Good for him, but convicted on failing to file the tax returns. Now, so he was supposed to go to jail. Then he said he couldn't get a fair trial in Florida because it was, he just couldn't get a fair trial, some racial stuff, right? So then he appealed and they said, no, boo, you going to jail. So just, you need to report. Okay. So he wound up going to jail in 2010 and then he did his time and got out. So, but while he was in jail, he was going through this appeal stuff. Now, the one thing that you need to know about when it comes down to tax crimes, okay, like when you owe tax money and all that stuff, just because you go to jail, it doesn't mean that you don't have to pay. Okay, you're going to jail for whatever the issue was for, in his case, failure to file, but you still got to pay. So that bill is waiting on you when you get out. All right. So what he did is then he tried to submit an offer in compromise. Now, what I want to tell you about the offer in compromise, you see these commercials, generally right around the fall, because that's, generally when people are getting letters from the IRS, and you see the commercials where the people were smiling and saying, I owed $25,000 and this company settled for $500 and our lives are so much better. Okay, so let me explain the offer and compromise process, because that's what's really I think where people really get confused, because they see these commercials and they think, oh, well, if it worked for these people, it can work for me. That's not necessarily true. So with an offer and compromise, it's, you can't pay, or, you say you don't owe, or what have you, right? Or you don't believe you owe, whatever. So you submit the offer and compromise. And with the offer and compromise, you're saying, hey, this is how much I can afford to pay based on my living and all of this stuff. But what's not going to happen, okay? You're not going to be sitting in a house with, $400,000 worth of equity, for instance, and think you're not going to pay your tax bill, because the IRS will tell you, you can pay up. Give me some of that equity, all right? They're going to look for your assets. They're going to look for your home. They're going to look for your retirement accounts. They're going to look to see where you have assets that you can sell in order to satisfy your tax bill. So you're not just going to not pay the IRS, okay? If you got some money, the IRS is coming and they want it hunty, all right? Now, it's also, just to remind you that the IRS has 10 years to collect a debt. So if they look at all of your living expenses and all of that stuff and say, okay, we can get all of our money within 10 years, they're not going to be willing to deal, right? But, if they look and say, okay, based on your particular circumstances, let's say you owe $15,000, but based on your circumstances, we can only get about 9 in 10 years. Okay, then we'll settle for $9,000, right? So they look at what your living expenses are, what you can afford to pay based on what they say you can afford to pay, based on your living expenses, local and national averages for clothes, food, and all of that stuff. So they look at all of that and they make the determination to say, okay, this is how much we believe you can afford to pay, and we'll take that, please and thank you, right? So now, what Wesley Snipes did is he made an offer and compromise of about $842,000, which was less than 4% of what he owed. The offer was rejected. Now, just because you submit an offer and compromise, it doesn't mean that the IRS has to accept that. They're going to do their homework. Okay, this is what I just told you. They're going to go through all your stuff and see what you got. So he submitted this offer. They said no. And so then he appealed. Now, it's also to note as well that when you submit an offer and compromise, you have to send a certain amount. You have to have, send a fee and plus a certain amount of the tax that you owe. Now, if they reject your offer and compromise, they're keeping your money. Okay, don't think they're going to send the money back to you because, okay, no, we reject this, but here's your money back. No. They're going to keep the money that you send, and they're going to apply it towards your tax debt. So don't think that you're going to get a check back from the IRS when you owe. So, but so on yesterday, that is when the judge said no, because what Wesley Snipes was saying is that the IRS abused their power. The judge said, no, they did not. So, and that Snipes failed to provide documentation to prove his assets and financial condition. He did not prove himself innocent. Okay, can somebody put that in the comments? You have to prove yourself innocent. Okay, can you put that in there? Because see, this is the thing. Like people, this is not like like criminal cases, right? That you're innocent until proven guilty, and if the prosecutor doesn't prove beyond a shadow of a doubt, then you walk out. No, that's not how the IRS gets down. You have to be able to show documentation and prove that you are innocent, because you can trust and believe that the IRS, when they come for you, they got documentation to prove they stuff, okay? Because that's just how the IRS do. Now, so at the, so based on what the IRS said, IRS said that Wesley Snipes owed approximately $23.5 million. Okay, now that $23.5 million is going to include what he owed plus penalties and plus interest. Okay, interest add up on some millions of dollars when them zeros is all them zeros. Okay, for real. Now, so when he sent in his offer in compromise, the IRS rejected that $842,000, and they said, hey, based on your assets, you can pay about $17.5 million. But Wesley Snipes said, no, I'm only paying $842,000. So, and so he was claiming that his financial advisor had taken out loans against his assets, but he didn't, he provided an affidavit, but there was nothing else to prove that actually happened. Now, so the settlement officer then said, okay, we'll take you down to about 9.5 million. But still, he said, no. Okay. So then that's when he filed the suit to say, okay, they're abusing their power. Now, understand too that when you submit an offer in compromise, you still need to be paying on your tax bill. Okay. It's not like you submit this offer in compromise and you stop. You still need to be paying stuff. You need to be paying on that bill. And it's also to note this too, that, you know, if you get an offer in compromise or you work out a payment plan or something, if you don't pay what you agree to, they can come back and ask for all their money. So while he's over here screwing around, you know, with this $9.5 million, if he don't make them payments on time, baby, they can come back and say, we want all our $23.5 million, please and thank you. All right. So that, you know, so the judge said, no, that ain't what happened. And that he didn't submit the complete data, right? So he did not come in there ready to show these folks that, hey, I don't have this money. Okay. You got to be able to prove yourself innocent. So, but they're saying, okay, no, Wesley, because based on our research, you got some real estate, you got some, you got interest in some businesses. No, you got money and you gonna pay us. Okay. The IRS do they research. He got property. They can place liens on the property. And a lien is when the IRS basically, you know, puts themselves and they put the creditors on notice that, hey, whatever, like if you sell a house and there's a lien on your house, the IRS says whatever proceeds come out of this, we get ours first. And so what that does is that affects your ability to get credit. It affects your ability to actually even sell, because if your lender knows that the IRS is going to come take whatever it is and they might not get paid, they ain't gonna be down for that. Okay. So this is what liens do. Now levy is when they come take your stuff. That's when they say, no, we just coming to get all this right here, and we're going to sell it off to satisfy your debt. And that actually happened to, I think it was a couple in Dallas that had a wedding shop that, they said, well, the IRS just all of a sudden came in and seized all their property and sold their wedding gowns for pennies on the dollar and all that stuff. And the IRS doesn't just suddenly levy anything unless they think you about to skip town or skip country and not going to pay, which brings me to my next point. Wesley ain't going nowhere outside the United States, okay? Because the government has started to enforce the PATH Act, which in 2015 said that if you owe over $50,000 in taxes, the State Department can suspend or not renew your passport. Guess who ain't traveling outside this country? So, So unless he can show that maybe he gonna go shoot a movie somewhere overseas to help pay off this debt, perhaps. But yeah, they can suspend his passport and he won't be able to travel internationally. So, So that's what Wesley's got going on in all of this mess. Now, what are the lessons here? Okay. It's not just to dish the gossip. What are the lessons? Number one is that you want to make sure that you file all your taxes. Okay, you want to do that because even if you have a tax liability that you can't pay, you got to file all of your taxes first. And number two is you cannot try and hide money from the IRS. That is illegal, and it's called tax evasion. Okay. And, and even still, whatever deal that you work out with the IRS, you have to you have to abide by that. And listen, as long as you stay in touch with the IRS to say, hey, this is what's going on, that and the other, then they're going to be willing to work with you. It is not their goal to put you in jail. It's when you blatantly do stuff over and over again and they can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that this just wasn't that this is something that you habitually have done. Listen, that's when you wind up going to jail, okay? But, and then that you need to make sure that you have a competent professional. Now, when he was dealing with these CPAs that convinced him that he did not owe taxes on this money, this is where I have a hard time with that. Because if everybody else in the country is telling you that you need to file taxes, and then you find this one person, only one person that says, hey, no, you don't owe. You need to take a seriously hard look at who you're dealing with, okay? Because, it's real good to think that you got these way cool, tax people and all that say, oh, we just gonna do this and you won't owe or you'll get this refund. And that sounds really good. But you really need to just check, this is when you really need to go get a second opinion, right? We get a second opinion on doctors. If the doctors keep telling us, okay, there's nothing we can do, nothing we can do, nothing we can do. Okay, you might get to a point where, all right, there's really nothing that you can do. But if you find more professionals to say, okay, perhaps this might work. Okay. But when we're talking about these taxes, listen, if you got 99% of the tax professionals and CPAs telling you that you owe this money, baby, you probably owe the money. All right. So you definitely need to, if something doesn't sound right, if it sounds too good to be true, then you definitely need to go and get a second opinion, from somebody that's totally unrelated. You absolutely do. So yeah, but this right here, yeah, so now he got to pay. He has appealed to the Supreme Court, and they said, we ain't trying to hear you. He's gone to tax court, and they said, baby, you got to pay. You got to pay. Okay, so yes, that is what is going on with Wesley Snipes. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe he's going to try to appeal again. Who knows? But I've been watching this, and the reason I've been watching this mainly is because of the whole tax protester issue. And like I said, they're still out there. As a matter of fact, during the Obama era, President Obama said, okay, you can't call them tax protesters anymore. I forgot what he called them, but you can't say tax protesters. But historically, that's what they've been called. And this is a segment of the population that believe that you don't owe income tax. Income tax is illegal, all this other stuff. And the government has gotten to the point where they're tired of these folks. Like seriously tired of these folks. So, there's only been one or two cases where the people haven't gone to jail. The last case that I heard of was, a pilot, she flew for FedEx, I think. And this was just a few years ago. But anyway, she wrote a letter to the IRS asking something about her taxes, but the IRS never responded to her. So, so when she went to court, she was found to not be guilty of tax evasion and all that, but she didn't have to go to jail, but she still had to pay that money back. And it was like almost $1 million worth of income that she had to pay back. So, yeah, this is why I tell you, and especially when it comes down to business owners, you got to have your documentation, because if they said that you did something wrong, you have to be able to prove yourself innocent, because you either did or you didn't. That's why, financial crimes are a lot easier to prove than anything else, because you either have the paper or you don't. You either paid the taxes or you didn't. Okay. It's very simple, black and white. All right. So that was it for today, you guys. Was that some juicy stuff? Okay, totally popcorn worthy. Totally popcorn worthy, at least for me. All right. So again, thank you guys so much for tuning into Home Biz Tax Talk. Oh, and if I did not say so, I want to thank everyone who purchased a copy of my book. I have a few that are going out today because we made the bestseller list, you guys, the Amazon bestseller list. So that is amazing. And I want to thank you all for purchasing the book. And I really hope you get value out of it. All right. So thank you guys so much for tuning into Home Biz Tax Talk. Again, we air Monday through Friday, 9 o'clock-ish. And when you tune into my show, you're going to get your questions answered about your home business taxes right here. All right. So thanks a lot. See y'all next time. Bye.